And now, I would like to invite Mr. John Couch to the stage to give the keynote address. Mr. Couch, the floor is yours.
Can I see my slides? Okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening in California. It is truly an honor to be here. And before we start, I really want to say how refreshing it is to be in a country that has the leadership that understands and recognizes the impact that technology will have. And Your Excellency, your vision is an encouragement to us all. Thank you. What I want to talk about also is another leader this morning. My boss, from Steve Jobs. Steve and I would walk the mountains, the trails around the buildings, and Steve's vision would define the future. A future that I believe has touched everyone in this room, certainly has touched me. But one of Steve's favorite quotes was a quote from Wayne Gretzky, where he said, "Some people skate to the puck, but I skate to where the puck is going to be." But Steve took this a little even farther, because in most cases, Steve redefined the skating ring. And what I want to chat about this morning is what the skating ring really looks like with mobile technology for a new world of learning for our students. But kind of let me start by sharing the two things that Steve did to recruit me to Apple back in 1978. You see, I was at Hewlett-Packard at the time, and we were building computers that cost $250,000. And we were selling those computers to manufacturing concerns and accounting departments. But Steve had a vision. And his vision for the technology in the personal computer and the technology now found in our mobile world was that of a mental bicycle. In the same way a bicycle amplifies one's physical abilities, he saw the personal computer amplifying one's intellectual abilities. Not to take us where we've already been, but to allow us to explore, to innovate, and to create. The second thing that he did is he came into my home on a Friday night and he put an Apple II on the kitchen table and told my then 4-year-old son, Christopher, "You can have this if your dad comes to work for me." What Christopher didn't know was Steve was asking me to leave Hewlett-Packard, where I was taking over a group of about 130 people, to come to Apple and work for Steve, but also to take a very, very substantial pay cut. Because in the early Apple days, no one made more than $40,000, from the president on down. And the reason for that was because the culture of Apple wanted to recruit people who shared our vision of that mental bicycle, and not who saw it as an economic opportunity. And when the TV didn't go on that weekend, and Christopher got on that mental bicycle and started going places and doing things that I did not think a 4-year-old was capable of. I told Christopher on a Sunday night, I said, "Now, don't get too attached to this because I may have to return it." And he looked at me and he said, "Why, Dad?" And I said, "Well, if I don't take the job, I need to bring it back tomorrow." And he looked at me with his blue eyes and said, "Well, just say yes, Dad." And I kind of tell that story because Christopher in 1978 grew up within the culture of Apple, a culture of empowerment. This is Christopher a few years later, sitting in front of the first graphical user interface machine called the Lisa. Those boxes in the background are 5 megabyte hard drives that cost $1,000. I now have 64 gigs in my new iPhone 5. Okay, so you can see how fast technology is moving. And this is Christopher here really creating and expressing himself in a new and unique way. Christopher went on to state history fairs. He went on to the University of Pennsylvania, where they allowed him to create his own major. So his major was engineering, minor in design, and he also had his own column in the Daily Pen. So he could program, he could design, he can. When I was in school, they told me you're either creative or analytical. Right? You can't do both. That is no longer true, and our students have shown that. This is Christopher about 4 or 5 years ago on the right-hand side. As you can see, Apple has graded me a little bit over the last 10 years. And this is my namesake, John Emerson Couch. And I show this picture because if Christopher was the first digital native, and I did not have computers when I went to school, so I'm somewhat of a digital immigrant, but hopefully after 35 years I'm naturalized. The really question is what is Emerson? See, John Emerson wouldn't even talk to me on a phone. He could see me on his computer. And so the way he wanted to converse with his papa was over, a video chat. And Alan Kay once said, technology is only technology to those born before the technology. Let me say that again. Technology is only technology to those born before the technology. You see, we tend to look at technology as a tool. Technology, environment. It's where they live, it's how they communicate, and it's really how they want to learn. So this experience has really influenced me, and in returning to Apple in 2002 at Steve's request to run education, the first question I asked was why? Why is Apple in education? It doesn't really matter so much about the what, but why are we in education? What is our vision? And our vision really centers around the student. Our goal is to really change the behavior that takes place in the classroom that recognizes this generation of students that they are unique, that each and every student is uniquely blessed, uniquely gifted. And as educators, how can we help them find that gift, right? Find that passion for learning and accomplish things in the same way a mental bicycle, allows them to explore. So our vision, if you will, are really around these students, centered about allowing them to express themselves. See, when I went to school, it was quite simple. Here's A, here's B, here's a linear process from A to B, memorize it, the test is on Friday. But this is not a generation of students who will accept a consumption model. This is a generation of students who are surrounded by a technological environment that allows them to communicate to the world. When I was successful in school and had a good paper or a good test, its distribution channel was the refrigerator door. And I was lucky if, grandpa or grandma got to see it. The generation of students has the world to share their creative processes with, and they get feedback. So in a way, you can think of the box as a digital laboratory, the internet as their audience, and they talk to the world, and they get feedback from the world. So this vision, I've used the word targeted pedagogy because my last job before coming back to Apple, and this is my second tour of duty at Apple, I was the 54th employee in the beginning. I was a CEO of a genomics company. And what we used technology for was to process the data in the human genome with the idea to predict a protein that would target an individual's DNA. Right? And in the same way, what we're saying now is we believe we've built an infrastructure, an ice skating ring, if you will, that will recognize the gaps in a student's knowledge using technology to help them overcome those gaps and go on to a very successful life. So I stole the term targeted, and it's targeted pedagogy. Now this vision also clarifies our mission on what it is we're going to do. And in 2002, we recognized that we needed really to build a learning environment that met the needs of this generation of students. And so we set out to build a digital learning environment. We set out to empower students with authoring environments that allow them to express themselves, to produce, not just consume. and environments that allowed their productions, if you will, to be exported to the world, to be able to get feedback from the audience for their creation. And so it's been a 10-year journey in building this digital learning environment. And I want to talk about two things that undergird this learning environment, two academic models that set the foundation for our digital learning. One is the SAMR model, and Dr. Ruben Putindara will address you later, really coming out of the first major one-to-one environment in a state of Maine. Governor Angus King in 2002 recognized that the intellectual assets of his state, his students, his graduates, were leaving the state. He also recognized that the traditional sources of revenue, fishing and also were leaving the state. And so he set out the Maine Learning Initiative, where he gave every 7th grader in the state of Maine a notebook, an iBook. That initiative has been extended over the last 10 years to the tune of about 80 or 90,000 of most of the students in the state of Maine having a notebook. Dr. Ruben Putindara has been involved in the study of that and has a model that he will go in a little bit detail later. But the key ingredients to the model are technology can be used as a substitution, in which case you're not going to get any new outcomes. If you simply replace a word processor, a typewriter with a word processor, without adding any additional functionality like spelling correctors or things of this nature, you're at the substitution. This model is part of Apple's culture because everything that Apple has done, if you think about the history of Apple, has been to deliver value to an individual. And value comes when technology can be used to redefine a task, to empower a person to accomplish something with technology that they could not accomplish without the technology. Right? So that's one academic model that's been underlying. The second academic model is the TCP model from Kohler and Mishra, and it really says the technology, the content, and the pedagogy must work together. Right? It's not about a device. It's not about a box that sits by itself. How does that box integrate with the content? How is that content delivered? How is that content changing the behavior in the classroom? So if you take a look at this over time, when I came back to Apple in early 2000, the device was the desktop. Right? And what we found was marching the students out to a lab for 1 or 2 hours of access to the device didn't really change the outcomes, the educational outcomes. It may have changed a student's interest from the standpoint that says, I'd like to go into technology, but it really didn't change the fundamental teaching and learning that was taking place in the classroom. The content was the traditional textbook. Right? And the pedagogy in the classroom was probably the same pedagogy that most of us had when we went to school. The teacher being the fountain of expertise, the content knowledge, disseminating that to a class, asking the class to repeat that information and then move on. So Apple knew that if we were going to reach the goal of a digital learning environment that really empowered an individual in learning, that we had to innovate, that we had to invest, if you will, in each and every one of these areas. And so the first transition really became the notebook, as His Excellency was talking about today, between the desktop and the notebook. The publishers, in their wisdom, gave us a carbon copy of the book on a CD-ROM. That fits into our initial model as substitution. Right? And did it change the classroom? It did not change the classroom. So we knew that we needed to go even beyond the notebook. We had to invest in a new platform. I talk about this because I cut my teeth on a mainframe computer. I've lived through the mainframe to the PC world, the portable world, and now the mobile world. And the mobile world is truly, truly transformational. In fact, there are more mobile devices right now in the world than there are people. Right? And so it is a platform change. So we had to innovate. We had to come up with a new platform, iOS 6. We had to come up with a new way to create content and distribute content, a new economic model, before we could even address the pedagogy in the classroom. And it's ironic that the multi-touch functionality that's on our iPhone was initially developed for the tablet, for education. But Steve made, I believe, a very wise decision and introduced the phone first. But we now have a brand new platform. We have a new operating system that supports the functionality for accelerometers, multi-touch. It's a new UI. The first UI since the original cut and paste and point and click of the desktop. But in addition to that, we needed to invest and innovate in the area of content and delivery. And one of the things that I recognized very early in the game in 2002, that Apple had built an infrastructure for the distribution of music. An incredible infrastructure. One that, by the way, probably processes, almost maybe $1 billion worth of iTunes cards on Christmas morning. So very scalable, available in 153 countries. I could hijack that for the delivery of academic content. Subsequently, they've added books, movies, in addition to the music, PDF files, and we invested in an area called iTunes U, which has 100 universities who've put their content into iTunes. And so what we have now is we have a digital distribution around the world, right, and an economic model for the creation of that content. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, with the idea that with these innovations, perhaps we can start to change the pedagogy in the classroom. Perhaps we can now approach what some people call personalized learning, where the individual, the technology now, instead of getting in the way of the faculty member or the teacher, really empowers the distribution of unique learning activities to each individual student, notifying the teacher via a dashboard how that individual student is going. So two additional innovations, two announcements that we made in January. One was a piece of software called iBook Author. And what iBook Author is, it's an authoring platform for the digital textbooks of the future. And it's a platform that doesn't operate at the substitution level. It's a platform that operates at the redefinition level. It's the same platform that the publishers are now using. This fall, we will have for every 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grader in the United States, math, science, language arts, and social studies books coming from Pearson, coming from McGraw-Hill, coming from the major publishers who've used this particular piece of software. But more important, that software is available to anyone in the world now. That software is available to your teachers. We happen to have 1,400 what we call Apple Distinguished Educators around the world who are currently using this software to build books. Right? So we've leveled the playing field. There's a disruption that's taking place in the traditional publishing model. Publishers were required when everything was typeset, because you and I as an individual couldn't afford a typesetting machine. But now, with a Mac and a free software, iBook Author is a free software, anyone now can use their experience, their content, publish a book, distribute it through the iTunes infrastructure, and actually take a 70% royalty versus the 4 or 5% that I got when I wrote my college textbook. So that's a very, very powerful tool. We've seen it used in the university here. Your faculty have been trained on this. They're adopting it. The students are writing their own books. The faculty are writing their own books. So that's one innovation. The second innovation was really iTunes U. iTunes U was originally created to allow the faculty to distribute their lectures and their materials to students within their classroom. Today, most universities have two instances. One, which is private behind the firewall. The second is open to the public. And what the new version of iTunes U now allows is it allows any faculty member to create a digital syllabus and distribute a complete course to the iPad. For instance, there's a course at Stanford University on how to write programs for the iOS platform. It currently has over 500,000 students taking that class today online. There are 15 other courses that we have freely available in iTunes U where there are over 100,000 each in each one of those 15 courses. So this starts to really transform, if you will, what it means to have access to a course. These are free courses. There's a course online right now from Duke University, which is the same chemistry course that's being taught at Duke University that anyone in this class, anyone in this auditorium could choose to take. And it's bringing on changes at our university, where the university environment is becoming much more blended in terms of online place in the classroom. Some people call it the flipped classroom, where the faculty now distribute their lecture, distribute the challenges, and then the classroom becomes much more active and constructive and challenging, rather than listening to a lecture. So these two are two innovations. iBooks Author is free, and iTunes U is free. So just to kind of give you an idea, iBooks Author, this is a biology book that E.O. Wilson has created. E.O. Wilson is probably one of the most foremost scientists in the United States. He's at Harvard. He's been there 40 years. He is building a biology book that will look unlike any other biology book. It'll be interactive. It'll be practical. It'll be real time, because these books can be updated real time. So this is disrupting the traditional book market, where in the United States it takes about 7 years to get a book approved, and by the time the student gets it, the world has changed. So this is just one example of his book. It has built-in assessment into the book. Here's another biology book from Pearson. These books tend to be tied to the new Common Core standards that the U.S. has developed. 46 of the 50 states have now adopted a Common Core standards. This is an algebra book. These are all available. This is a new history book that's available. This is a new Spanish book that's available. So the exciting thing in the medical book is not only are the traditional publishers now creating this digital content that's transformational, but individual teachers all over the world are creating books. I have a 5th grade autistic class, students that have written their own book. There's an 11-year-old in Australia who's written a book called The Trip that tells a story of visiting her grandparents that's tied to the Australian standards. 11 years old, sells for $4.99. All right. iTunes U is about courses. This happens to be the Open University, where they're distributing their courses now through iTunes U. They have a separate web page for you to subscribe, but they also have free courses. Your courses would look like this on your bookshelf. I don't know if you can see, but there's a little blue circle on the Duke. That basically says right now that I'm about 36 assignments behind in that particular course. But all your courses now are now integrated with your books. You take notes across the books and the courses. Here's the syllabus for that particular course. Remember, this course is the actual chemistry course that's being taught at Duke right now. Here are your posts. In other words, the faculty posting the assignments to the students. This course uses no book. It's a mashup of URLs, chapters of books, applications, everything. This is an example of a video. I can actually look at the lecture and take a note on a subsection of that lecture, put it in my notes. So if I'm having difficulty with isomorphisms in my math class, and I want to go back to the lecture and find that particular location, I can bracket it, drop it into my notes for study, for future studies, and so forth. This is a resource page. So all the resources that are required for that course, whether they be books, URLs, EPUB files, applications, are all on that page. And this is where I think the excitement comes for us going forward in the pedagogy, is because if we understand the gaps in a student's knowledge by looking at the results of the assessment, and we can go back into the metadata of iTunes U and pull out certain learning activities that we can then send to that student to overcome that gap, we can add those learning activities now to the faculty's resource page by student. So the faculty member now knows that, Johnny really doesn't understand high-order polynomials, so the system has delivered a set of learning activities to Johnny to overcome that deficiency. Here's what was sent, and here's the result of sending that material. There's the notes. So you have your notes, they're digital notes. And what's interesting in this is if I were in school today, I would be using iBooks Author as my note taker, because what I would be building would be my own knowledge base of that material. That knowledge base would go beyond the textbook into the URLs of the interactive web, video solutions, chapters of maybe 2 or 3 different books, different ideas, putting it all together, saving it in my own iBook Author format, and then saving it to the cloud for future reference. Because in a sense, that's part of my portfolio, learning portfolio, and it goes with me as I go on through education. So here's the challenge. I mean, when Steve asked me to come back in 2002, he really said, look, John, we've transformed the computer industry. Through technology, through innovation, through creativity, we've built a new industry called the personal computer industry back in '78. I was the original vice president of software in those days. DEC is no longer around. Right? Music. Apple didn't go into the music business saying, our goal is to be the #1 music distributor in the world. No, they went into the music business because they said, we think we can deliver transformational value. Value, if you have an album, maybe you should only have to buy the song. Value that allowed us to purchase our music differently, listen to our music differently, and collect our music differently. So if you think of the ecosystem around the music store, it's a new skating rink. It's not just where the puck is, it's redefined the ring that the puck plays in. The phone industry was the next industry. Again, Apple said, these phones are pretty crappy. We think we can do better. We think we can leverage and build a new ecosystem around a phone that delivers applications to your phone, that takes your phone now to a new transformational level, not just a substitution. The carriers in the past defined the functionality in your phone. Right? Apple flipped that and said, no, we will take on the responsibility of the user interface. We will take on the responsibility of the functionality that we deliver. And if you take a look at music industry, Tower Records as a brick and mortar distribution channel is gone. If you take a look at the phone industry, most of the landlines are going away, particularly in emerging countries. In fact, I have 11 grandkids, by the way, so that's why I'm passionate about education. And one of my about 18 months, was visiting a home that happened to have a landline, a phone connected to the wall. She wanted to know why the phone had a tail. And then I think what's happening now is a transformation that's taking place in the publishing industry. I met the 2 largest distributors of textbooks in Latin America. And one of the distributors, in chatting with the CEO, I said, your business model is predicated on the fact that you hire a teacher, whether it be an elementary teacher or a high ed teacher, that has some experience in content. You take that, you package it up in a book, you pay that teacher 8% royalties, and then you distribute that book. I said, that same teacher now, with a free iBooks author application and a distribution channel through the textbook store of IT, can write that book themselves, distribute it overnight to 153 countries, and take a 70% royalty. I think you need a new business model. And he agreed. So they're now, all their books are now on an iPad, and they're distributing an iPad with 4 years of books into their high schools. One of the other distributors basically told me, he said, I went into a 5th grade class, and there was a 5th grade student who had written his own book. He says, the 5th graders are doing what we, the publishers, should be doing. And that's the excitement for me as I look at your students. We saw students at the university yesterday creating their own books. I can tell you, I was talking to His Excellency, the Secretary of Education, Minister of Education. He's got 4th graders and 3rd graders that can create their own books. And not publish them on a refrigerator door, but publish them to the world if they choose so. And get feedback from the world. Now let me tell you, my experience with not only my own kids, but my experience in Apple, when the kids know that their work, their creations are going to be viewed by the world, they put a little bit more effort into it than if it was simply going to be on the test. So I think what this is all leading up to now, it's leading up to a learning environment where the walls of the classrooms are coming down. You know, Thomas Friedman talks about, the world is flat, all right? Schools are going to have global students. If I have 500,000 students taking the app development course right now at Stanford, you can imagine where that's going. In fact, a professor at Georgia Tech called DeMilo has written a book called From Abelard to Apple, where he looks at the history of the university and where the universities are going. We have unique challenges in the United States that you don't have given the vision and your leadership. We have $1 billion of student debt in the U.S. That's students who've incurred a debt to get a degree and are struggling in this economy to even find a job, much less pay that debt back. We have infrastructures that won't support the number of mobile devices that are coming on the campus, much less the type of content that we're talking about today, this transformational, media-rich content. And we have faculty members who basically teach the same material year after year. And so the challenge is if all the faculty member is doing is distributing traditional content, not putting that content in a relevant, challenging context, then why do I want to pay $50,000 a year to go to that university when I can access that same content free from MIT, from the Open University, from any number of 1,400 universities in the United States? So we're going through a change, if you will, in the U.S. I have one friend of mine who has a small university who's getting WASP approval, and he will create 40 courses. Each course will cost $250, and the student will get a degree for $10,000. And it'll all be online. So that's kind of the directions that things are going in the U.S. Let me just kind of wrap up a little bit here and say, this learning environment, this new skating ring that we have designed in terms of the content creation, the distribution of that content, the mobile, all right, it will work in the classroom, but it will work just as well outside the classroom. So we really have two choices. We can ignore the technology and the trends, like DEC did, like Tower Records did, okay? Or we can embrace it and bring it in. And I salute the vision of your leadership in the UAE that has recognized this, recognized it early, and you really have the potential here to be the center, if you will, of content creation for not just the Middle East, but I think, really for the world. And I know that their leadership is they focused on high ed, but we're not going to leave the other children behind either. So with that, I just want to wrap up. This is one of my kind of favorite quotes, And I think this paraphrases His Excellency's words as well. The way we define our learning environments today will ultimately define our societies tomorrow. So thank you for your time, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Coach, for your exceptional insight and address. It's really a great pleasure having you with us today.